The NFL has blessed the Bills. Even though the official schedule release is a week away, opponents have been finalized and analysts have started projecting potential schedules for the 2025 season. So far, it's looking good for the Bills. In most projections, the Bills are listed as having one of the easiest schedules, which bodes well for the playoffs and a potential Super Bowl run. My name is Maeve Miller, and I'm a part of the Bills Digest team, so please subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the latest updates. First, I want to talk about the AFC East because that's obviously a big part of our opponents next year. And, obviously we play them at home and away, so that's 6 games. And the Bills have just been so dominant in this division. They've had 5 straight AFC East titles, so hoping for that 6th this year. And I think it's just nice when you have a team that's dominating the division. It's just a lot of insurance. Playing 6 games that you're most likely going to win is very exciting. So I'm not too worried about any of these teams, to be honest. And the analysts have been saying there's about a 70 to 92% chance of the Bills winning all these games. And when it comes to individual teams, I feel in prior years, the Dolphins and the Bills, especially in our parents' generation, the Dolphins and the Bills were more going neck and neck and we're head to head. But I think Tua, he started off very strong and they were very big opponents for the Bills. But I think with his injuries and concussions, they've definitely been a decline. They've been switching up the offense too. So I feel like in the last 2 years or so, they have definitely not been as big of an opponent for the Bills. Next is the Patriots, which is kind of funny because they used to be the Bills. They were leading the division. I remember during the Brady era, just losing every time to the Patriots. It was so demoralizing and just upsetting. And I remember thinking how unfair it was. Now, since the Bills are leading the division, I think it's completely fair. But I definitely feel for the other teams in the division because it's not fun when you have to play these teams so many times and you keep on losing to them. The Bills did lose to the Patriots in Week 18, 23-26 last year, but that was definitely due to the fact that the Bills were resting their starters in preparation for the playoffs, so I don't think that really factors into it. Then lastly is the Jets, who the Bills have beaten 11 out of 13 matchups, and I feel like the Jets have just kind of been a sad team lately. There's been a lot of coaching changes, quarterbacks coming in and out, and I just feel like I'm very confident the Bills would beat them twice. The only reason why I think the Bills would have a loss in the AFC East is in a situation like the Patriots game from last year where it's the last week of the season and they're, playing very well, so they want to rest their starters. So I would project the Bills winning 5 of 6 of these games, which would be very exciting. Next, I want to talk about the AFC North, which is a division that the Bills will be playing against all of their teams. And that's starting with the Ravens, who have been a very formidable opponent against the Bills, but the Bills have kind of struggled with them in years past. And the Ravens have just been such a dominant team. They have offensive powerhouses like Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. And I just think their quarterback alone can, rush and pass, and has been very successful. In last season, the Bills were crushed 35-10. And this was definitely a wake-up call because I think the Bills realized, and the fans, that maybe we're not as strong as we thought we were, because just lose that badly was just very upsetting. Derrick Henry, as you see in the picture, just blew by all our guys. And I don't know. I think that was one of the toughest losses of the season. But the Bills did have some changes when they played them the next time in the AFC divisional round. They beat the Ravens 27-25. And both quarterbacks played very well. Allen had 2 rushing touchdowns and 127 passing yards. Lamar Jackson over 250 passing yards. And it just showed that there's very strong offensive teams. And the Bills, I think, it wasn't the main factor, but in the end of the game for the 2-point conversion, Mark Andrews did drop the ball to tie the game. So I think that's a big reason why the Bills won. Not who knows what could have happened. Even if he scored, it would have been tied and it would have gone to overtime. We don't know what could have happened. But I think the Bills, they definitely stepped it up from the first game they played against in that season. But I think for this season, they have to step it up even further because they're just such a strong team. They have been making changes on the defense by bringing in D-line or new defensive line players and edge rushers who can really stop players like Henry. So I am more confident in our ability now that we've brought in new guys through trades or through the draft. So I think this game is definitely up in the air. And it actually was one of the only projections from Mike Clay, who's from ESPN, where the Bills were 50%. You can see in Week 17, that's what his projection was, and that was the only game where the Bills were not even going to lose, but were tied. So that was very interesting compared to other teams. However, I'm still pretty confident. The Bills also play against the Browns and Steelers, and those are actually away games. The other two games are home, so they can play against the Ravens and then the Bengals, who the Bills have had a little bit of issues with them in the past. They lost in the AFC divisional round 27-10 in 2023, and the Bengals put up 412 offensive yards, which is very impressive. But I think during this era of the Bengals, they were definitely stronger. This was like Joe Burrow had just started out, and they were, they had beaten the Chiefs and made it to the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're as strong as they were. They've had some off seasons since then, but the following year they did beat the Bills in November of 2023, 24-18. So they're definitely still a strong team and very good offensively, but I think today the Bills are going to play them when they play them this season, I'm confident they'd be able to win. And like I said, being at home definitely is a big factor. So lastly, I want to talk about some teams to look out for. Obviously, we know it has to be the Chiefs. This is just, I hate even talking about them because it just makes me so mad and sad. But the Bills have had some struggles with them in the playoffs. They've beaten them during the regular season. They were the only team to beat them during the regular season last year. They broke their undefeated streak. But when it comes down to it, it's the playoffs that matters. This stat is so sad because you can see just the year in and year out. 2021 was the AFC Championship, which was a tough loss. That was their biggest loss by far, 34-28 or 38-24. And then the next 2 years were divisional rounds, which the 2024 AFC divisional round and the 2025 AFC Championship were especially heartbreaking because they only lost by 3. It just showed that the Bills were so close, but just couldn't get it done. And, there was the missed field goal by Bass in 2024, which definitely was a factor, but you can't just blame one guy for that. And I think this past year was just almost unbelievable that they lost again. I didn't have too much hope going in, but when your team's playing that well, you just kind of assume. So I just think obviously the key to them making the Super Bowl is beating the Chiefs. I hope in this year maybe the schedules will work out, and depending on the seeds, that the Bills will be able to avoid that, and maybe the Chiefs will get knocked out earlier. Because I just think that once you make it through the AFC, the NFC just feels easier. Even though the Eagles beat the Chiefs, I just think the Chiefs are just such a hard team to beat, and I don't know. It just makes me worried about playing them, but I know we play them every year. I am confident because we do beat them during the regular season. So I think the regular season could be a win, but we just have to transfer that over into the postseason. Another team that the Bills will play against is the Eagles, who are the reigning Super Bowl champions. Like I said, they beat the Kansas City Chiefs last year, and they just have a great offense with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley, he was already very good, but he had a huge breakout year and just pulled out some crazy moves. The Bills did play the Eagles in Week 12 of 2023 season, and they ended up losing 37-34 in overtime. And that just showed that two very strong offensive teams. But the Eagles did edge out the Bills for that, and I think this could be maybe one of their potential losses in the upcoming season. Obviously, I want them to win, and I think they can, but just looking at how the Eagles played last year and being able to stop Barkley would be a huge factor in that. So if they can stop Barkley, I think they'd be able to win. As I also mentioned, the Ravens are another team with Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson to look out for. But since it's a home game, I think I would give us, the advantage on that. A notable away game is against the Houston Texans, who the Bills have strangely had some losses against them. Last year felt like a bigger game because Stephon Diggs was traded to them, so it was their first time going against each other after being on the Bills, and the Bills had a surprising loss. I was expecting them to win, so I just think that maybe this is one of the teams that we should look out for. But going back to those projections from Mike Clay, you can see that most of these games is a 70% chance. You can see against Kansas City at 63%. Like I said, the Ravens at 70%. Miami actually has a little bit lower with 65%, but a lot of these games seem to be on the easier side. The projected wins are 11, which is very exciting, and that ranks them at the third best. So I just think I like how the analysts are optimistic. You can even see with this. This just is a tweet that shows the strength of schedule. It's a little hard to see, but the Bills are way up on that green side. And I think this is nice because the Bills did have the 10th toughest schedule last season. So it's kind of a blessing, and we're very lucky that maybe we'd have an easier schedule at a time when our team is playing very well. And this says that the Bills will face 8 teams that are under 500 in the 2024 season. Obviously, teams make a lot of changes, but I just think it is exciting that, maybe we'll get some luck this year and be able to pull out a Super Bowl win. So, yeah, I think we'll have to see what happens when it comes to that. But these are the projections for now. And once the actual schedule comes out, we'll be able to see whether the Bills are playing international games or any Christmas games. And it's funny because in the years past, when the Bills weren't as strong, they were on every Sunday at noon, and it was very consistent. But now that the Bills have been playing so much better, it's funny that they're always on the prime time or playing on the holidays, which are very exciting. So I'm excited to see what happens. And when that schedule comes out, May 14th, we'll have some more information. Thank you for watching. And once again, please subscribe to our YouTube channel on Bills Digest. Thank you for watching. Go Bills.